Hi everybody. Over the weekend we published a new blog post on what we call the Trump boom and how it has been coming to an end. I thought it would be useful also to give the whiteboard presentation version of that blog post and think about this in slightly more theoretical terms and give you an overview of how we are thinking of what is happening both in the markets and also to the US macroeconomic situation at the moment. I think we basically can understand this within a traditional ASAD framework, a traditional textbook Econ 101 framework. This is what we're doing here. What we have here is, on the first hand, of course, aggregate demand. That's essentially monetary policy, it's fiscal policy, it's other shocks. On the other hand, we have the aggregate supply. What happened in our view on November 8 when Trump was elected to president was that the markets changed its perceptions about fiscal policy, particularly in the US. At that time, we had a situation where aggregate demand was slightly subdued in the sense that inflation expectations at that point, if you look at 10-year inflation expectation in the market, for example, was around 1.7%. That meant that the Fed was likely to undershoot its inflation target in the medium term. But once Trump was elected, the market said, well, Trump is going to deliver huge tax cuts, infrastructure investments, and that is likely to push the aggregate demand curve to the right. So what we got was essentially a shift in expectations. So we moved the AD curve to the right. As a result, inflation expectations jumped to around 2%. That happened during November and December, and in December, or actually going into January, we peaked in inflation expectation on a 10-year horizon around 2%. Obviously, we also know that if we have a jump in inflation expectation, we'll see economic activity increase. Said another way, GDP growth will going to increase. We saw that during November and December, where macroeconomic numbers generally improved, for example, quite strong labor market data. And if you look at so-called surprise indices, they surprised on the upside. However, once we hit 2%, something happened. Because if we push above 2%, we should expect the Federal Reserve to step in. Because if fiscal policy pushed inflation expectations above 2%, the Fed would be overshooting its inflation target. As a consequence, the market started to price in rate hikes earlier than previously expected. And this, of course, stopped the increase in inflation expectations. And in January, we saw inflation expectations basically move sidewards around 2%. Going further ahead, getting to end of February, Fed officials actually started to talk about tightening monetary policy, hiking interest rates earlier than expected. And on March 3rd, Janet Yellen, the Fed chair, essentially pre-announced a rate hike already on March 15th. As a result, as from around early March, we have seen inflation expectations starting to inch down. So we have actually moved down slightly on the AD curve, moving back towards the left. As a consequence, inflation expectations now are around 1.8%, essentially creating some room for further fiscal stimulus. But this shows that, yes, Trump was able to push up inflation expectations that caused the acceleration in growth as we had a positive inflation surprise. But once we hit 2% inflation expectations, we also hit a wall in terms of growth accelerations. And as a result, the Trump boom ended in less than 3 months. Thank you very much.